Right, you've seen the news in the last few days. DJI is on more bikes now. You've got the Uno and you've also got Forbidden and DJI's own bike, the Amflow. One of the most amazing things about this is they're already sold out. That is an incredible thing. Before they even hit the market, everything's already gone. No one even looked at the price. They just bought it off plan. In fact, I believe you could bolt one of these motors to a shopping trolley with some big wheels on it and people would buy it. There is more to this than the magical recipe that DJI seems to have discovered. Since trying the new Specialized, I think there's something to mention about these new generation of numbers that these motors do. My first point is, why have we gone power mad? To me, it feels like the power of suggestion, and I've got a good story about this.
Let's see if my face sucks.
Back about 2 years ago, I was at a bike testing event where we had quite a lot of bikes. There was no public involved, just press. One of the bike companies there was Knox, and they had a Sachs RS powered e-bike, mountain bike, EMTB, ready to ride. That Sachs motor is 112 Newton meters and puts out about 700 watts of power, and it had a big battery on it, and it was a fully equipped, ready to ride, enduro, powerful mountain bike. So basically there's this bike there by the side, ready to be ridden. But the crazy thing was, it was really easy to get hold of. No one seemed interested in riding it. And that made me think, well, why was no one wanting to ride it? It's got all this power. And in fact, the journalists were more interested in riding other bikes. And I think at the end of the day, about 2 of us took it for a ride, myself and Andrea Ziliani. And we rode it and we discovered, wow, it's got a lot of torque, it's got a lot of power. And we're riding uphill, almost understeering. You've got so much power braking up the hill. You know, it was an interesting experience. But honestly, at that time, I was like, okay, yeah, it's too much. Not really interested in it. Let's just leave it to the side.
Ridden the Sachs briefly. It's super powerful. It's got no dead spots. It just rides through the dead spots on the pedal stroke. It's got so much torque, 112 Newton meters, that it just completely flows through. The only thing about this motor is it's very beefy. Look at the size of it here. Very huge. A big battery to supply that much current and that much power. It still respects the norms of 250 watts, but it's 112 Newton meters. Now, does it feel like a cycle experience? Not completely. The closest motor I've tried next to this is either the Paulini, also the Bosch race motor. The Bosch race motor has a similar sensation that this motor gives, but this is more powerful. This type of motor, you're starting to leave behind the cycling experience. It's not really cycling anymore. It's more like a sort of mini motorbike, even if it's speed limited. So I'm not sure if this is the type of motor I would want on one of my mountain bikes because it's so powerful.
And that opinion was based on actually riding a super powerful, very high torque mountain bike that fundamentally felt good as a bike, but just had all this power. And I felt at the time it was excessive. Because now, since DJI came out with a motor, suddenly the whole market is going power and torque crazy. Now, when you talk to the manufacturers, a lot of them just say, this is, what the public has requested. Again, the other day, I came across the ZF motor at a recent bike event and I was getting up close with it, playing with it a little bit. And yes, I've ridden it a bit before, but I've got one coming very soon on test, which would be great to try. And the thing that really jumped out at me is with that motor is, wow, this is a great feeling motor. It's quite small and it's got about the right amount of torque that's probably makes it feel like a bike. And I thought, wow, what a good idea for a good bike that you can make with this motor. So what's going on? Well, without getting in too much into the weeds, and there's another video coming on that soon where we start looking at the specifications of motors and how they compare, what all this means for the big picture. Basically, EMTB motor specifications are a choice made by an engineer. They are not based on magic that somebody managed to work out and no one else ever figured out. It's not like some engineer sat there and sort of mixed a few ingredients and boom, poof, came some kind of crazy, incredible motor that no one had thought of before. Its specifications and how the motors perform were scientific and specific mechanical and electromechanical choices. So if you have a lot of one thing, you'll have a lot less of something else. Based on what Specialized have done, they made a technical choice. They kept the peak power lower than the DJI motor. When you look at its duty rating, it's much better than many other motors. It's much more constant, and its response to heat and power is, let's say, more predictable and more reliable. We'll discover that in another video. There's only one source that has identified this, and that is Velomotion. They spotted this in their recent tests, and Velomotion is very interesting because they create a lot of data on all the different motor characteristics and they compare it to other motors. So it's quite interesting. I would recommend highly going and watching their recent review of the Specialized motor. Yes, it's a technical review and looking at a lot of the specifications, but definitely worth a watch. To me, this means that when we're comparing motors, we need to have a little bit more technical data. I don't think what we've done so far is good enough for the end consumer, and it's far too much marketing. It feels like the influencers and the pay-to-pay journalists out there, they haven't done anything which makes content accessible where the consumer can make a valued and informed judgment about the product that they're being talked to about. It all seems like marketing. Well, when I rode the Specialized Turbo Levo, one of the big things that jumped out at me in the turbo mode with the motor maxed out was how that peak power gave me a sensation that I was riding a motorbike.
It's kind of ridiculous, actually. I'm not actually convinced this is cycling at this point. I feel like I'm hanging on. I had the same feeling with the Sachs RS motor. Okay, let's put it in trail mode.
Now, I've had that feeling before. I've had that feeling on the Polini, I've had that feeling on the Sachs RS, I've had that feeling on the new Bosch motor software that I have tried, but I can't say any more than that. And I think a lot of people swept over that because at the end of the day, it seems like everyone is obsessed. Rather than looking at the complete bike, they're just interested in the motor. The only thing that seems to sell a bike nowadays is the motor and the price. No one cares about anything else. If you can have a super powerful motor with lots of torque, lots of big numbers at the cheapest possible price, you're going to sell a lot. But we're going to discuss that in another video that we're working on with some other. So if I was to line up the three motors that I sort of think are the ones of the moment, and that is the DJI Avinox Specialized 3.1 motor and the Bosch Performance CX. The fundamental fact is you are enjoying riding with all three motors. It's not like one motor is so much better than the others. That's not actually happening. There are differences, yes. Are they worth all of the fuss and all of the noise and hype? No. In fact, that brought me on, after trying these constantly powerful motors, it brought me on down the rabbit hole of duty ratings and trying to understand what the rules are, which nobody else seems to talk about. Because it felt like to me that people were pushing limits where they had never pushed before. A lot of people are saying because the bike industry is drip feeding us specifications over time and just trying to sell us something more. But I don't believe that completely. And I said to someone the other day, I said, no. Actually, what I think is happening is the motor companies have developed motors. They're very expensive to bring to market, so they've had to develop them, take the cash that they've made from them, reinvest it, and keep going. DJI, with their new system, has managed to create a massive amount of interest and are basically selling exceptionally well in the markets where it's available. And for what I've understood, about 27,000 units of the Amflow bike have been produced in China, ready to be shipped to all of the new markets. So it's a motor which is going to be, and a bike brand which is going to be very visible over the next few years. And the other companies haven't been sitting on their laurels. They haven't been doing nothing. I mean, Specialized could have launched their motor probably before DJI back in August, September last year, but they decided not to. Specialized system, the way the bike rides, the way the motor functions and everything is exceptionally good, and it is worth the price that you pay for that high-end bike. If you've got the money and you are a dentist, then I would say go buy that bike. It is a fantastic bike. But don't buy it on numbers of motor alone. I think that the market and the noise is making the end consumer lose sight of what's important on an electric mountain bike. Don't just buy off plan, because that is not a way to really judge, is that product the right product for you? All of these motors have been built according to numbers. If you have a little bit more power here, you need a little bit more thermal capacity there. If you have slightly less power, you need slightly less thermal capacity. It's physics, it's science. These motors are going to be decisions. Hopefully that was an interesting subject. It's quite complicated to get into, and we'll cover it in more detail in further videos. Okay, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks everyone, bye.